I feel like I've been getting spoiled lately with the replays that have been sent my way. What I've got for you today is a best-of-7 series between two players that are on absolute fire right now. Spotting right here in the top left-hand corner of a map called Persephone. That's map number 1, again in a best-of-7 series. Playing with the blue Zerg drones, we have Reynor. Down in the bottom left, the winner of the most recent RSL. Actually, no, that's not true. The second place of the most recent RSL. Playing with the Red Terran SCVs. We're looking inside of the main base of Maru. Maru, what are we doing? Maru, what are we... Okay, sure. We're starting the series off with a Proxy 3 Rex. This is one of those build orders that I literally never see lose. But also, it is rarely played at this level of StarCraft 2. It's one of those weird ones. Because when it works, it's basically a guaranteed win. But if it gets scouted, Zergs can actually cancel it before it gets going. So it kind of feels like the build never even, you know, really began in the first place. And if something never begins, then it also can't fail, right? Anyways, judging here by the very first Overlord, and then also the second one, maybe Reynor is going to stumble upon it eventually. But... not in time. I'm a little bit afraid that this is not gonna be seen in time right here for the Zerg. Now, this particular series was played as part of the RSL. However, it was the end of the year offline show. Meaning that, I'm not exactly sure what the name of the event was, but this was like an additional tournament where they invited basically all of the best players from the RSL throughout the year, and they played, most importantly, at an offline venue. So this was the first time that the RSL actually hosted an offline event, meaning that both of these players can look each other in the eye while they're playing the matches. Well, let's see how this goes. Drones get pulled. Jimmy has already shown up. More and more Marines are going to be joining in a moment. We have that Spinecrawler coming, which is, of course, what those drones are trying to protect. Queens are coming too. Zerglings are on the horizon. So far, not a bad spot, actually, here for the Zerg. It's just one of those builds that can just go horribly wrong in a heartbeat, but at least the bunker has been slowed down. The SCVs are low. He decides to cancel it itself. Nice cancel by Maru at the very least at the last possible moment. 6 drones die, but I think this is acceptable here for Reynor so far. Oh my lord, Maru keeps doing this against Protoss. Apparently we're now also doing it against Zerg. He decides to pull the boys. He decides to go for an SCV all-in. Second Spinecrawler coming, though. There should be, yeah, at least a Queen here with a bit of energy saved up. Is there enough for the Terran to kill this? Oh, yeah. What a way to start a best-of-7 series, by the way. I can't believe this. Of course, we have mules on the back of this as well. And mules are really nice. Yeah, they certainly do make the game a little bit easier. GG. Well. At least the tone has been set. Maru, of course, one of the very best StarCraft 2 players, period. But he shines specifically in formats like this one, where he gets a bit of time to prepare. He gets to, well, for example, play at an offline venue. Maru has made the vast majority of his tournament earnings while being able to look at the opponent whilst playing the game. Obviously, usually they're not quite directly side by side, but... There's no denying that Reynor is feeling a little bit worried as he's even going for a drone scout. Drone scouting in this matchup is weird. Wait, is this a proxy hatchery? No! Reynor is fighting fire with fire! Oh, I love it. Yes, give him the middle finger, dude. There you go. Don't let the Terran player dictate the pacing of the match. Don't let Maru do Maru things where he is going to be allowed to just set the pace for the remainder of the series, and you're going to be one of those players that gets to, well, just be hit in the face, right? That's something Maru has done over and over and over again over the years, where he sets the tone early, and then it's really up to the opponent to try and be reactionary. But I really like this here for Reynor, even though I think across the board, proxy hatchery build orders are questionable, to say the least. Well, let's see. Is this actually going to work out? Because obviously being 2-0 behind 5 minutes into a series, not quite ideal. Maru wanted to go for a command center first. Immediately, though, realizes now that maybe we're going to have to go back to the drawing board. It is a quick gas geyser and a spawning pool on the back of this, too. I don't believe, though, that yeah, we're really going to be doing anything too crazy here with this hatchery. Is he going to produce a queen and maybe put down a creep tumor? Is that the plan? Because ultimately, this is just going to die. Are we going to make Zerglings and try to maybe run them into the main base? Do we add on a roach warren and try to go for a bunch of roaches on the other side of the map? These are the types of questions as well that Maru will be wondering. Now, Maru is making a second command center. It's inside of the main base. Factory right now on the back of this too. Do you go into a tech lab here and maybe start producing cyclones? Do you just sort of accept that this is it? It's a very low commitment proxy hatchery. As far as like a proxy hatchery can ever be, low commitment. Does that make any sense? Like, there's very little on the back of this. But if Brenda successfully poops right over here on the edge, it is going to be insanely annoying for Terran to actually secure a base. Yeah. Keep in mind, of course, that Terran will have 2 orbital commands, so scans will be available. This is going to be the world's most expensive queen, I'm afraid, but if she can put down a bunch of tumors, we already have a lot of links. More of them are coming across. But this is basically a hatch gas pool opener here from the Zerg, where the hatchery started off on the other side of the map. So it's the normal build, except rather than his own natural expansion, he decided to take the opponent's. I think that's enough. Cyclone is indeed coming now inside of the main base, but that's certainly enough to keep this hatchery alive for a little bit longer. Drone production, by the way, has begun on the other side of the map. Link speed is going to finish. But what are we going to use these Zerglings for? Is this effectively? Is that what we're trying to do? Is this effectively just like a one base contain? This is StarCraft 2 players trying to cut off the supply lines. Right? Trying to create a, and maybe dig a moat around them, right? Make sure that there's no food coming in and out anywhere. We even have some drones coming here on the other side of the map, and they are going to be rallied all the way back home. I think it's probably time to unhotkey this base. Yeah, a couple of overlords makes sense, but everything else, a little bit of a mess. Do you go for a third hatchery now? Well, at the very least, it's making the game a lot more difficult here as well, right? For the Terran player. I think across the board, this is actually beneficial for Terran. It's a big commitment here for Zerg, especially as far as the Zergling production goes. But whatever plan Maru had for this particular match, it has to be thrown out of the window. I really do like the Raven here, by the way. Rather than scanning 14 times, I think the Raven makes a lot more sense. Problem is, right now, we have 2 creep tumors already making, yeah, their connection back home. What is the movie called again? The movie with the 2 dogs eating spaghetti? But that's effectively what we've got going on right over here. With 2 creep tumors trying to embrace each other and meet in the middle. Anyways, we have to continue the aggression with the Lings. And Maru, 5 minutes in, still has not secured his low ground base. Evo chamber coming up. Third hatchery already about to finish up. Interestingly enough, by the way, Brenda did make her way back home. And this is wildly more successful for the Zerg than I ever thought it was going to be. So how could you have countered this as a Terran? SCV Scout. Yeah. I think Reynor, well, he's also very good in this type of format. He's certainly a player that likes to prepare for the opponents. I think it's a fair assessment from Reynor that if Maru is ahead in the series, so if Maru is leading the series 1-0, the odds of him going for a scout in game number 2 are very small. So I think it's quite intelligent, actually, from Reynor to go for this build in this particular situation, this particular setup. I highly doubt it's going to be played again later on, maybe. But it's now gonna, yeah, keep Maru guessing as well for the remainder of the match. 1 SCV falls. A little bit of harassment. A mule takes a lot of damage. And actually, wait. Jimmy! Did Jimmy just kill the mule? Or was there still a Zergling underneath somewhere that I didn't see? That was a pretty fresh mule. Didn't really get a lot of mining done yet. Alright, well. Apparently, the 2 lovers never met in the middle. I'm sorry. Lady and the Tramp has turned into Romeo and Juliet, apparently. It's a sad story, but yeah, Juliet, spoiler alert, she, anyways, here's the Marine drops now. So how do you navigate this spot, Maru? How do you go and move forward from here? I guess we can start off with a little bit of, yeah, aggression here. So he does have Stimp back. Combat Shields is coming. Plus one infantry is already done, but everything is very disconnected. I don't know if I like the idea of Terran pushing at this point. No, I don't think it's the right move at all. He believes, right, since he's been sitting on those bases for a while already and he's been making so much army that he needs to get something done. So he's trying to hit an attack before Zergling speed, or sorry, before Baneling speed is finished. Losing those 2 tanks is big, though. Still, this is Maru we're talking about, some of the very best micro on the entire planet. And without Baneling speed, it is difficult to really get the proper connection. Are the numbers favored? No! Maru pulls the boys again! The SCVs are joining in once more! Well, at least the Zerglings are busy biting their way through 11 of those bad boys, and I guess it gave the Marines ever so slightly more freedom, but this is an absolute disaster here for Maru, who soon is going to be playing against centrifugal hooks. We even have some Zerglings out on the map ready to intercept a couple of the reinforcements. Beautiful game here by Reynor, it has to be said. Especially given the context. Especially when you go up against somebody as intimidating as Maru, Reynor did not flinch. Okay, and just like that, we find ourselves on the map Mothership with an even-upped? With a scoreboard that has been evened up. Even-upped. We should make it a verb. So, what do we do from here? Where do we move from this location, right? We're on a 3-player map. So, in general, it is a little bit more difficult to be the aggressor here, especially with early game cheeses. I mean, it'd be really awkward if Reynor wants to go for a proxy hatchery and he builds it over here. Right next to where nobody spawned. And likewise, if you want to do proxy barracks, I guess you have a good spot right over here. You can plant a bunch of barracks right over here, and it's like a similar distance to the top as it is to the bottom. But it's not a very good cheese map. Now, what is kind of ironic is that both of these players are, yeah, some of the very best macro heroes that we have in StarCraft 2. Neither of them is really in a spot where I believe they are incapable of playing the late game. I've seen Reynor play some phenomenal late games. Likewise, I've seen Maru play some really solid late games too. Those matches that Maru played against Shin, for example, in the previous RSL season come to mind, although maybe Shin has a bit of a mental block against Maru. Not exactly sure. I saw, by the way, and this is also included in the replay pack, that apparently there was once again a Maru versus Shin match. Now, I haven't seen those games yet. If you want to check them out, make sure you subscribe, because I certainly will be casting them, but I think Shin is on like a 20-plus series losing streak. I looked it up the other day. I'm not exactly sure what the number is, but I believe that Shin hasn't won a match against Maru since like 2019, which is just kind of ridiculous. But yeah, I do want to certainly go and check that out as well. It should be a fun match. Maybe Shin can, you know, actually get things together this time around. It is nice though, because for this offline event, they did a lot of long matches. There's loads of best-of-7s in the replay pack, which is always exciting. At least as a fan. Maybe if you're a player and you lose 4-0, you kind of hate it, but in my mind, Reynor and Maru are very evenly matched. And also, I don't actually know who ends up winning it. Considering I'm casting it and it is a Reynor match, there seems to be this thing where I cast predominantly Reynor losses, and him being set up against Maru is... Anyways, it's not an easy opponent. Let's just, you know, let's just say it as it is. Reynor, though, over the last, I think, like 3 months, it's been a while at least at this point, he has been spending time over in Korea. As far as I know, he and a bunch of the other pro gamers do have their own place. So, yeah, they spend a very significant portion of the year now in Korea. And there's no denying that you can get some really good practice on the Korean StarCraft 2 server. Although likewise as well, we've been seeing some of the Koreans, like for example Solar, ladder actively on the European server. Reaper Scout right there gets denied. He did not quite get the drone kill, did force the morph in. But of course here, at least Maru saw that there was no Roach Warren hiding behind the mineral line or a cheeky Baneling nest right next to the gas geyser. Instead, it's just a good old third hatchery right here for Reynor. Now, what do we have on the other side of the map? What in the world is this abomination, Maru? This is a 4-Rex. So, a couple of giveaways here for Reynor. First off, he hasn't seen a hellion yet. That is gonna immediately set alarm bells off in his head. Generally speaking, you assume that hellions are roaming the map at this point in time. And just by virtue of not seeing them, no Overlord on the pillar this time around. I love the little Overlord meta. It's cheeky. You expected that there would be one overlooking it. He's trying to hide the amount of Marines that he's got as well. There's the majority right over here. Anyways, just by virtue of not seeing the Hellions, Reynor will already assume that something finicky here is going on. Now, what is it going to be, and how do you defend against it? Well, in this instance, this is 3 Rexes with add-ons and then a 4th without. It's certainly a very refined attack. Maru leading the charge with just a bunch of units, and we pull the boys again. What in the world, Maru? Maru keeps on all-inning with SCVs. Now, we do not have a Baneling Nest. We do not have a Roach Warren. All we have is Zerglings and Queens. This Overlord is still going to die. Triple Spinecrawler coming up. You know what? I actually think the Spinecrawlers are a really good idea. Normally, they're pretty terrible against early game pushes, but I think in this instance, with the SCVs as well and no medevacs, could work out. But then again, they need to be done. Maru is not going to sit back, though. Stim back here. Combat Shields is already finished. Maru may have turned Terran into a meme. What are we watching? Is it 2010 again? How did we... Well, the spawning pool is going to die. Interestingly enough, after all of this is said and done, worker counts are pretty much identical. Main base is gone, though, and so is the spawning pool. Losing the spawning pool is annoying. But these Marines are kind of stuck in the main. More and more reinforcing Marines are being eaten alive by the Zerglings. 1-1 is coming. Spawning pool is getting remade over at the 3rd. Yeah, Reynor is droning up again. So what do you do with these? What do you do with these units? Can they reach the drones on that mineral line? I don't think so, right? So now you're stuck in the main base. There's one Overlord, by the way, trying to hide. It can't move because there's a force field here, but Maru doesn't see. Zerglings are still, making sure that Terran is unable to move. But likewise, even though Maru does have a very significant supply advantage, those Marines in the main base are kind of stuck. And I'm a little bit afraid here that Terran is going to be way too invested in trying to get those Marines out of here. I think the best thing you can probably do is make a bunch of medevacs and just send those across. Meeting in the middle of the map with more Marines, trying to cross all of this creep and hoping that you can bypass the spines is risky. Okay, well, the lair is gone. Oh, really? We go down? I mean, these units are already stimmed to death. Yeah, I don't think this is good. No, that was not ideal at all. Now the Spinecrawlers can also be repositioned to more, defendable locations. I don't think committing Sudoku with those units is the way to go. Anyways, back to the drawing board we go. This is still a really good spot, though, for Terran, all things considered. But we need more bases here and maybe more follow-up attacks. The question now becomes, though, how do you decide when it's time to move? If you wait too long, Baneling speed is going to be done. If you go too early, just literally Zerglings and Queens will eat you alive. Double upgrades finishing here as well for Reynor. I think for Reynor here, from his point of view, he basically has to take some chances. He has to take some risks and potentially be okay. I think you don't run in. I think it's a mistake, actually. You just lose all of them Zerglings. Okay. The Spine Crawlers are going to be kind of nice. 2-2 does begin, by the way. This is +2/+2 started here for the Terran before the third base is done. How weird. How odd. Maru's gone to the same school as Hero, I suppose. We learned the basics in the first 15 years, and then we threw it all out of the window. Okay, main base has been retaken by Reynor, who did finish the lair, by the way. Yep, I think it's time to get Baneling speed. There it goes. If you can afford it, 2-2 would also be really nice, but expensive. And that's one of the really big advantages here that Terran has. The additional marine upgrades kicking in about a minute from now are going to be super useful. He's not really focused, though, on getting that orbital command situated at the third. He wants to go for a push right here, right now. And I think it's still the right choice. But it's becoming awfully all-in-y. Zerglings around the back. Banelings in the front. Ooh. Good enough for Reynor. Any cleanup right here is good enough. Back to droning he goes. Oh, that Widowmine did not quite get the value off. The clock is ticking on centrifugal hooks. Likewise, though, on 2-2. And this is just so much freaking Terran. Are we going to pull the boys again? No, we're flying the third command center down to the low ground now. Reynor may have to give up on this base and send the drones into the main, but he doesn't really want to. Widowmine! Decent detonation. Yeah, I think giving up on the base and sending the drones in the main is indeed the right call. Thank you for making me sound smart, Reynor. I appreciate that. A couple of Zerglings, by the way, are biting their way through some of the SCVs at the third, and it is increasing the pressure on Maru. The problem here for the Terran is that you don't know the spot that you're truly in. Another gigantic run-by, and this time around, it is the right call. This time around, we have Baneling speed done as well at home. Ooh, Widowmine. Widowmine. Getting a good hit there in the end, but so many SCVs are dying. Did Reynor just do the Reynor thing of the Zergling run-by, bringing them back into the match? That's so many SCVs dying, a full retreat from the other side of the map. Oh, I'm getting nerd chills here. Maru's still ahead when it comes to the supply count, though. It is very easy to overread the situation, but there's no denying that now Reynor has grabbed the worker lead. The income advantage takes a nosedive here for the Terran. Massive advantage, of course, here for Reynor. And now any fight that Maru wants to go for is going to have to take place on creep against speedy Banelings. I know, by the way, that at this point, Reynor is going to be buzzing. Reynor is a very momentum-based player. Sometimes he will get stuck in his own head a little bit. We've seen this time and time again over the years. Where Reynor can get some good hits going, like the ones that we just saw. Generally speaking, he's going to be cruising for the rest of the series. That's the type of confidence boost that you need. Now, if he can really, if he can win this game, that would be... Okay, no council on the match, or on the hatch, rather. But if he can win this match, that would be incredible for him. Massive confidence boost. But Maru is still in a very playable spot. If you look at the supply count, it's easy to forget that Terran is still, well, with a very significant army. And they're also better upgraded. 3-3 is coming here for Maru. Maru leaning into the advantage that he does have. The advantage, of course, comes in upgrades, but it also comes here in the fact that he's got a mobile flying army, whereas that's not the case here for the Zerg at all. Basically, no anti-air available. Maybe an attempted Baneling roll-by up north would be nice, but it all comes down to these marine drops right now. Yeah, Maru is still reading this game so nicely. It's easy to get carried away, right? You look at the amount of bases that Zerg has, you think, okay, he's got like 4. I just barely have like 2 saturated. How in the world am I going to be able to get back into this? Well, turns out if you can read the situation properly, maybe you weren't behind in the first place. Reynor, though, doing a good job splitting up his units, but those medevacs are becoming problematic. Drops in the main base continue onwards as well, but the micro here from Maru is excellent. And if we look at the resources lost, yeah. This is telling us a very significant story as well. Now, there is going to be a relatively even amount of upgrades here for about 10 seconds. I don't think that's really going to be too significant, but if somehow a fight happens right after Reynor finishes up 2-2 and right before Maru finishes 3-3, ooh, that could mean all the difference in the world. We have a gigantic baneling mine being set up right now for the Italian Zerg. Drop in the main base, though, still ongoing and still very well executed. And now the supply count is becoming more and more, yeah, in favor of the Terran player. Maru, by the way, taking a different route. The scan does not reveal the banelings. It could have been so nice here for Reynor, but he decided to take a different route towards this middle expansion. Widowmine, good hit. And I think this hatchery is going to have to disappear yet again. Reynor's trying to see if he can maybe get his opponent to back up to those banelings that are burrowed underground. But at this point, the big juicy hit that he was dreaming of is no longer there. Medevacs, now that were previously at the third, are moving on over to unload behind the queens, it looks like, or maybe to just join up with the rest. Hatchery lives, 6 drones go down, but here's the rest of the Terran army indeed unloading and ready to fight, and that is just so many units. 3-3 is done right now here for Terran. 4th command center is being secured. Planetary Fortress is building on top of that thing. We have 7 barracks, by the way, which is really weird. Not normally what we do. Banelings, okay, he's not even gonna try. The amount of units here is too big, and while it looked like a Zerg comeback for just a moment, Maru decides to do Maru things. Okay, next up, we find ourselves on the Celestial Enclave. Too much? Or just right? This is a map that, similar to Mothership, so the map we were just on, it's a map as well that doesn't really have a lot of cheesability, I suppose. There are some strategies that you can go for. I've seen, for example, Zerg players, right, going for a proxy hatchery on the other side of the map, using that cheeky little worker-only path right over here in the back. But this is a map that usually is very macro-focused because it's so bloody easy to defend 4 bases. So this base is free. This base is pretty free for Zerg. This base feels relatively easy. This expansion is, well, right next to your main base, so pretty much a freebie too. As long as you knock down this set of rocks. I mean, this entire starting area for 5 bases, if you don't want to be, well, somewhat risky, right? If you want to be entirely risk averse, skip this one and you have like 4 bases to mine off of. And it's only a few angles you really have to worry about. So if you defend this choke point over here, considering it's up on a high ground, on top of a ramp, very straightforward. And obviously, well, there's this expansion to worry about over here, but you can make a bit of a wall in that spot. Maybe that's a bit more relevant for Terran. You can make a bit of a wall over here, and you still just have another ramp to worry about. Long story short, this is a map that usually goes very macro-focused. So let's see. What is quite interesting, by the way, is that after those first easy-to-take 5 bases, the one over here on the low ground in the middle, especially for Terran with planetaries and siege tanks and all the rest of it, is reasonably easy to acquire. So you get like 4 bases that are super easy, a 5th that is pretty easy, then a 6th that's also very manageable. From there, the rest of the bases out on the map feel pretty much impossible. It flips upside down. The corner bases are probably the easiest after that point, but there's a bunch of expansions in the middle. There's these hanging expansions off to the side that are, at least in my experience, pretty much impossible to ever mine. Funny how that works. So I'm expecting some sort of 4, maybe to 5 base aggression in the majority of games on Celestial Enclave. But maybe they have got something prepared here. Maybe they've got something special in store. For now, though, this is going to be a triple command center opener. A very fast triple command center opener, by the way, here for Maru. So this is a 3rd command center before a factory, because yet again, we are skipping the factory. Now, it's kind of ironic, right, about these build orders that Maru has been employing lately, is that he doesn't go for hellions. Oh, I didn't realize you could throw a grenade from there. He doesn't go for Hellions. He's been skipping a lot of Banshee openers too. And that makes you extremely vulnerable to, for example, Roach builds. Remember those Roach all-ins we used to see from Zergs all the time back in the day? They went away mostly because of the Hellion Banshee builds that have become so prevalent over the last few years. But, yeah, very interesting to see. Anyways, we've got something else entirely from Reynor. So Reynor is not even opening up with a quick third hatchery. That is the story that he's selling right now to Maru. He's saying, Maru, yo, I've got this base taken. Pinky promise. Not the case at all. We have a super fast lair, but no additional gas is taken yet. What we do have, though, is a mass amount of Zerglings and Overlord speed. Yeah, what about, okay, sure. So we're gonna bring the ladies in a private jet across the map. And then we're gonna just flood the map with Zerglings? That's the strat? It seems kinda dumb. But sometimes when something is kinda dumb, it's actually brilliant again. So we're going for, I guess, a full Zerg drop. I would imagine in the pocket base, or maybe right outside of here. Only a few Zerglings, by the way, have been given as vision to Maru. So Maru is entirely, yeah, in the dark right now. He has no idea that this is happening. This is definitely Reynor playing the meta, right? Like, he's playing the meta, he's playing the opponent. This is a build order that would fall flat on its face against what we considered over the last few years a normal build. But you know what? Maybe it can work out in a situation like this where our Terran player is being very memey. Oh, yeah. GG gets called immediately. Brenda blocked the ramp. We're not dealing with that at all. There's no chance that Maru cleans this up. At this point, I'm not really entirely sure what we should expect from both of these players. It's very clearly some hyper-intelligent gameplay, right? Like, we can certainly tell that both of these guys are ridiculously good at the game. But intelligence in strategy games is, generally speaking, a bell curve, where if you try to be too smart, you end up being dumb again. You don't want to be too smart, because you just end up losing to your opponent doing literally anything normal. Like, if you go too far off the beaten path, you just lose to the most standard strategies out there. So far, though, it's been working out reasonably well for the both of them. I gotta say, it's very clear that Reynor came prepared. Sometimes we've seen the European top-level pro gamers, right, travel off to Korea, and they participate in some of the Korean tournaments, and they come prepared with really good macro strategies. They know how to play the game like an absolute god in straight-up matches of StarCraft 2. Wait, is that my cat? Toby, what's up? Oh, what's the door? Okay. Alright, the door was locked. I'm sorry, dude. I didn't mean to close the door on you. What was I saying? Right. Sometimes you see the European, well, especially the Zergs over the years, but we've seen this as well with Terran and Protoss. If you go all the way back to the early days of StarCraft 2, you see them going over to Korea. They participate in the absolute highest level of StarCraft 2. And they just sort of get smacked around by build orders that are considered to be extremely suboptimal. Reynor is not falling for that trap this time around. As a matter of fact, he is the one dictating a lot of those memes. Especially in modern StarCraft, I think you're very susceptible to that sort of strategy if you're just preparing the macro game, if you're just preparing to play the solid macro stuff. Okay, let's see. Yeah, sorry, Toby. You were meowing very loudly outside of my door. I just, you know, I thought you would have gone away because you meowed for the first time, I think during game 2. It's been a while. It's a double Marine opener, by the way, which is a little bit odd. This looked a lot like a Reaper start for Maru, but Maru opening up with the double barracks on the low ground and then went straight into a, yeah, Marine follow-up. Normally, you play this build order with a bunch of Reapers. First Overlord was already killed. Reynor's got Ling speed coming, but it's going to be a bit late. This third hatchery may honestly be in trouble, although Maru is going around the other way. Yeah, I think going this way and trying to hurt the opponent's third base is the smart thing to do. Slow Zerglings are going to be very, very annoying. But as long as you have, for example, a bunker to fall back to, I think this is nice. What are we watching right now? Like, this is effectively... I mean, I'm not even really wanting to call it a bunker rush. But, like, what is this? It's an abomination is what it is. Because it technically shouldn't be good. But it may just work because you're playing very much so the opponent's specific meta. Like, this isn't even the meta that Maru is countering here. This is the norm that he has scouted from watching Reynor replays. And by studying those Reynor replays, this is what he's come up with to most likely work. Now, this is slightly problematic for him, even though the hatchery is gone. Ah, this was supposed to be a marine-filled bunker. And instead, it's going to be a free couple of kills there for Reynor, who did restart the third hatchery down south. Third command center as well on the back of this. Yeah, I guess if you're looking at these games and you're thinking about implementing it onto the ladder, I think as a ladder build, none of the strategies we've seen so far throughout this best of 7 are good. They work in these specific circumstances because of the series, because of the opponent, but I really don't think that would work well as ladder build orders, which is kind of glorious all on its own. Okay. Double evolution chamber right now here for the Zerg. I believe the first hellions... Oh, hello. He just lifted the barracks up to make another add-on. Wait a second. This could be painful. Oh no, Maru. It's fine, I guess? The crisis management is really good. This reminds me a little bit again of Hero. Not having an adept on hold position in the wall off. And then just warping in reinforcements to try and deal with the Zergling run-by. The crisis management was good, but obviously it's preferable to not let the Zergling slip in the first place. Wait, we're playing mech? Oh, yo, wait a second, Maru, no way. Okay. Zerglings go into the main base. He could not have possibly scouted that sort of thing, right? Like, that was not something he could have prepared for. The Zerglings see the Marines, they see the third barracks, or the third command center rather, and they see the double engineering bay in the main base. You 100% assume that it's going to be a bio-based follow-up. Engineering bays are required to make infantry upgrades. Instead, what we do right now is follow it up with additional factories, but Reynor, somehow, some way, has decided that now is the time to go roaches with missile upgrades to boot. This is a reverse Uno against a reverse Uno against a reverse Uno. Now again, intelligence is a bell curve, and I'm a little bit afraid that at some point this is going to horribly backfire. In this particular instance right now, I think it's... Wait a second, we're still going Stimpec. Ooh, wait. We're going Stimpec? What? We have Stimpec, Blue Flame, double engineering bay, and now double factory on the back of this too. I think we've ended up on the wrong side of the bell curve, Maru. I like this spot way better for Reynor, because at least it is something that leads somewhere. Before minute 20. Sure, this can work out really nicely for Maru if he's given enough time, but Reynor is not the type of Zerg that will just sit back there and let you chill. We're likely going to see some Zergling run-bys, but also an attack with Roach Speed. Roach Speed is, well, about halfway finished. And that is going to be a very significant skill check here for the Terran player, who I don't think he can really stop it. We have Tech Labs coming up right now. Are we going for a Hellbat push? Hellbat Marine? But we have 3 Marines. He canceled Stimpec, okay. We go for a 7-minute? 21 Blue Flame Hellion push? What? I mean, the Roach counterattack is going to be absolutely brutal. In the meantime, by the way, we do have the Lynx shutting down mining over at the third. This is basically as effective as the first 7 minutes of the game for Maru. Yeah, no, this is, this is, very suboptimal. Reynor, though, apparently he quite liked the Overlord balloon from the previous game. Apparently we're gonna bring the ladies in yet again. Maybe he's a little bit afraid of some sort of anti-air requirement, because obviously roaches cannot shoot up. But this is certainly a game where Maru kind of lost the plot a little bit. He tried to be so smart that he ended up being dumb instead. Ravagers. Yep, easy biles. And while we do have some Blue Flame Hellions going to town in the natural expansion, Reynor makes it look reasonably easy here in game number 5. And just like that, we find ourselves on a Winter Madness. Match point right here for Reynor. You know, going into the series, I expected at least the semblance of some macro games. But that has not been the case at all. So if you've already thrown everything at the opponent, if you've already thrown all of the strategies that you prepared for at the opponent, what do you do right now on a map like this? Winter Madness is pretty macro-focused. There's not really a whole lot that you can do to catch the opponent off guard. For some reason, I've been playing a bunch of Zerg again on the ladder. For some reason, Terran players on this map, at least in the games they've played against me, are very fond of going battle cruisers. Now, there's no way that Maru is gonna go battle cruisers, but for some reason that's what comes into my mind when I think of TVZ on Winter Madness specifically. Honestly, if Maru ever wanted to go for BCs, I think this particular series may just be the one. For now, though, nothing all too weird, nothing all too strange. We have the second Overlord looking around, but not really going out too far. Yeah, sometimes it's tempting to go out into the open here and scout for a bunch of proxy barracks, but then on a map like this, you don't actually have a whole lot of high ground locations where you can hide the Overlord. So it's safer for Reynor to just keep it over here and, well, use it to his advantage a little bit later on. There is a pillar over here, but this map does not feature a whole lot of Overlord patches. No pervert pillars, which I still think is the best name for those. Okay, so quick circling speed. Generally speaking, when you want to go quick Zergling speed, you are required to get Zergling speed. Instead, we decided to go for a third hatchery first and more droning. So we have 104 gas mined, but no Zergling speed. Ooh, he does actually lose one of the drones here to the Reaper harassment. Double inject as well. Now the Ling speed begins. Normally, you don't double inject with the queens. Normally, it's one inject, and then the other queen drops down a creep tumor. So these are already little things that Maru will be paying attention to. He's going to wonder, okay, does this mean that my opponent is going to Ling flood again? Like what we saw, for example, in the previous matches, right? Are we going to once more send a whole lot of units across? Well, apparently Maru is now gonna go back to the tried and true strategy of a 2 command center 1-1-1. No third base. Oh, you wanna say hello to everybody? Toby is here, guys. Be polite, say hello to Toby. You know, he's a sweetie. I know. Sorry, I'm in the middle of a series, Toby. This is match point for Reynor. Show some respect. Sometimes I feel like you don't even care about StarCraft. It's literally how I pay for your kibble, dude. Toby was nice enough to remind me that it was lunchtime about 2 hours ago. I put lunch on the floor. They get this very nice wet cat food, right? He sniffed it and then proceeded not to eat it. Cats. All right, Hellions in the meantime going in, though. It's a small group of Lings, but I think sufficient enough. More of them are coming. It takes 3 Hellions to one-shot a drone. I think this is totally fine right here for Reynor, who's already continued droning again. I mean, it's a bit of drama, but it's hardly the end of the world. So the problem is, right, when you YOLOing your Hellions like that, I don't really love it because you end up losing potential as well with the Banshees. Now the Queens basically could just focus on killing the Hellions, but if the Hellions are going alongside the Banshees, then obviously the Banshees are going to be able to put in more work, or the Hellions can put in more work. If it's one bit of aggression at a time, yeah, easiest interception right here of Reynor's life. So you throw away the Hellions, they don't really get a lot of value, and then furthermore, you also kind of hamstring yourself with the Banshee follow-up. This is definitely the most macro-focused game thus far. Keep in mind, though, that this is a opener here from Maru, where he delayed the third command center. So this looks a lot like the Clem type of opener, right? Where he goes Hellion Banshee, but this is Hellion Banshee with a delayed third CC. So not only does Maru not really do any damage with this build, he also delayed his own follow-up significantly for that particular build. So in a way, you end up double behind. Now, there are a lot of barracks coming. We'll have to see what exactly the follow-up is going to be. But Reynor gets free reign here to do whatever he likes for at least a while. I think as long as he gets Baneling speed done at a reasonable time. Now, at this point, he's going straight Infestation Pit. And he's building it in a location where if he ever wants to go Ultras, they're going to be blocked. Don't tell me you want out again, Toby. I think he wants to play. He's meowing again. Toby, I'll play with it in a moment, okay? Let me finish the series. In before, there's going to be like 2 55-minute long macro games. Yeah. Laurent's away from home this afternoon. Immediate dissatisfaction. The humans were not allowed to leave. So, it's an 8-Rex follow-up. It's an 8-Rex follow-up off of 49 SCVs. I don't think he's going to build add-ons on these, is he? I think it's just going to be pure marine production because he's not going to be able to afford it. Yeah, no add-ons. Likewise, though, for Reynor here, we do not have Banelings, but what we do get here is a bunch of Infestors. Now, Infestors can obviously use fungal growth. It's an uncommon way to start things off. It's not usually how Zerg players defend against these type of pushes, but if you can get a good fungal off, obviously it can be wildly successful. Already a Hive is coming, by the way. I think this is going to be Ultras. I'm a little bit afraid that the positioning here, I don't think Ultras are going to fit there, are they? I'm a little bit afraid that we're going to see a bunch of Ultras stuck in the main base. All right. We have so much marine production, though, that it all comes down to the fungal growth. Scans are going to give Maru at least a little bit of a heads up. Reynor, though, is so far ahead at this point in the game. Strange follow-up yet again here by the Terran. Fungal. Decent fungal. Big Zergling flood coming in, though, and this is making it impossible for those Marines to get picked up, and that's one of the big advantages of fungal growth. It inhibits any type of movement ability. So those Medivacs, they can still heal, but they can't pick the weakened units. Ultralisks are indeed going to be the name of the game. If any Ultras with Chitinous Plating spawn, I think that's basically game over for Maru, unless they spawn in the main base, at which point they will probably be freebies. Queen's still having a good time right over here at the front. Still a scary attack, though, here for Terran. It needs to be said. Liberator's now on the back of this as well. I love that siege tank positioning. Incredibly difficult to break. Reinforcing Zerglings did pick up some of the reinforcing Marines, but not quite as many as you would have liked to see. Zerglings, though, moving to the front yet again. Adrenal Glands, by the way, is also really good. Do we have any fungals here in that Infestor? No, it takes 75 energy, not quite enough. Ultras are coming. No time for chitinous plating, though. That fungal is yet again very solid, and the siege tank does go down here. Queen DPS is low, but apparently high enough for this sort of thing. Where's the Ultras being prepared? There's one over here. Where's the other one? It's over at the 4th base. Okay. Adrenal Glands is still a really nice upgrade, though. So this is about 40% attack speed for Zerglings. If the Lings can get on top, which with fungal growth becomes way easier, but if the Lings can get on top, massive, massive damage improvement, of course. Here's the Ultra Dose. Pooping out just barely in the nick of time. Fungal growth on any of these units? Yep, there we go. Say goodbye to your Terran army. And Reynor may have done something that very few Zerg players can say. He may have just beaten Maru in a best-of-7 series. What does Maru have left over? Okay, these are Ultras. They're pretty terrible, I guess. Chitin is coming up right now. Man, even Marines are doing a good job against him, but this is an atrocious spot for Terran to be in. He's barely secured the third. Armory only just now building, so he can only just now start up the +2/+2 when it's finished. And how in the world are you gonna stop Ultras? Spire on the back of this too. I think it's, yeah, just because the only real reliable choice here that Terran has is gonna be Liberators. So if there's gonna be like 8 Liberators or something, at least Ultras can be sniped, but at that point the Ling Bane army will just flood through everything. I think Reynor slowing it down is actually the right call. Wait for some of those upgrades, especially this one, to kick in, and then try to see if you can get some value in. Free Liberator. You never look a gift Liberator in the mouth. What about the medevac drop over here on the left side? Yeah, fungal growth available here too. Need to be careful as the Terran. Very easy for things to go horribly wrong. Now, Maru has decided to basically just accept the situation. If Zerg goes for an attack right now, he's dead. But what if he doesn't, right? What if Zerg decides to just sort of let Terran get away with all of the greed? So we're going second factory, fourth command center, double upgrades, and obviously that's going to cut heavily into unit production. A lot of these structures are not doing anything. It's a risky play here from Maru, but I agree with it because I think it's the only way in which he could possibly come back. Reynor, though, is chilling. He can't chill for too much longer. He's maxed out right now. 80 drones is good, but really nothing to write home about. Bailing speed, important not to forget about it. +3/+3 coming up here as well for the Zerg. I really hate this infestation pit positioning, man. If you're going Ultras, they're so gonna get stuck. So far, I guess Reynor has gotten... Maybe he deselected the Hive, I don't know. But so far, it kind of feels like he's gotten lucky that none of the Ultralisks actually popped out in the main base. +1 Flyer coming up too. And this will be the moment when Maru secures a fourth. Okay. The time has come, Reynor. Is there enough for the Zerg player to overwhelm all of this? I think there is. But let's find out. Here we go. Zergling, Ultra, Bane, moving up towards the high ground. Couple of Corruptors in the mix as well to deal with any Liberators that aren't even set up. Banelings are starting to roll through everything. We do get some decent hits there with the Widow Mines and the splash damage of the Terran in general. Maru making the best of a very rough situation, though. Backs up to the safety of the Planetary Fortress. Cancels the Orbital Command or the Command Center there in general, but we still have Ultras, Zerglings, and everything else going to town. Fungal hits the perfect ball of units, and that is going to allow those Ultras to actually catch up. Liberator over here is going to get destroyed. 18 SCVs are dying. Ultras are breaking open the natural, and soon the main base as well. And I think that is all she wrote. GG gets called indeed. And just like that, it is Reynor who obtains the victory. 4-2 over Maru in a best-of-7. At an offline venue. It's not something that a lot of Zerg players have done. I'm trying to think. I'm sure there's a list somewhere. But it has to be very short. And only the absolute cream of the crop of StarCraft 2 players have ever really beaten Maru in a best-of-7. So to see Reynor doing so in a relatively dominant fashion too, you'll love to see it. Now, across the board, a phenomenal series, right? A very odd series too. Both players trying to really outsmart one another until you end up with double engineering bay into like 5 factories that are all producing 1 hellion each with blue flame, and then you go double armory on the back of it while also researching Stimpec, but you're not actually getting any of the bio upgrades, right? Like, there were some games here that certainly sort of got off track, and that did not work out for Maru in the end, but across the board, a beautiful series of StarCraft 2. GG.